My observation over the years is that it's the why and the therefore that matter with the news and with history. So you've tuned to the right show if you want to not only follow what's going on with Obama and Saudi Arabia and Hillary and Bernie and Trump in the New York primary, but the why and the therefore. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry.
Abdul Aziz ibn Saud. He was the founder of Saudi Arabia. Modern Saudi Arabia. You understand that up until Saudi, the House of Saud, the family, it was just called the Arabian Peninsula. During Muhammad's time, the founder of Islam, there actually was no name for it as a country. It was just considered the Arabian Peninsula, and there were regions of the Arabian Peninsula, like Yemen. So, as of 2011, when Forbes released an interesting study about the House of Saud and money, there was one surviving son who got between $200,000 and $270,000 per month as his stipend from the oil. Grandchildren averaged about $27,000 a month from the oil. Great-grandchildren, $8,000 to $10,000 a month. And there are thousands, literally thousands of descendants from the original founder who owns the Saudi oil. By the way, the reason I'm going to this is because you might have noticed in the news that there is a clamoring going on for the Obama administration to release the 28 pages that were blacked out from the 9/11 Commission, all right? After the Twin Towers were taken down and the Pentagon was attacked and another plane was lost in Pennsylvania, the government put together a commission called the 9/11 Commission. They issued a report, and there were 28 pages that, for whatever reason, the security apparatus in our country said, no, we're not going to let these 28 pages be printed. There's a lot of speculation that it's because it tied the terrorist attacks to Saudi oil money or to Saudi Arabia directly. And at one level, I for sure, I want to see it, and we should, but at one level, it's almost comedic. It's almost funny. Our State Department knows that the number one financier of terrorism in the world is Saudi Arabia, but that's not exactly correct. So let me explain. Our State Department has what it calls state sponsors of terrorism. All right? Libya used to be a state sponsor of terrorism. Iran currently is a state sponsor of terrorism. What that means is that the actual government itself funds, equips, gives training to, gives material support to trucks, guns, whatever, to terrorists. All right? A state sponsor of terrorism. Saudi Arabia is not currently considered a state sponsor of terrorism. There are one or two countries around the world that do consider it, but nobody, if my memory is correct, nobody in NATO considers Saudi Arabia a state sponsor of terrorism. They have perhaps the largest exploited oil reserves in the world. My understanding is that Russia has the largest untapped oil reserves, but Saudi Arabia has the largest known reserves. So we'll see. I don't know. The point is that Saudi Arabia has an awful lot of money from oil. But the Saudi family is a royal family, okay? It's a dynasty. So in many aspects, they are the government. So all this money is being distributed to Saudi family members. Millions and millions of dollars. But the U.S. government doesn't say that they are a state sponsor of terrorism, even though they know that the number one source, the number one economic source for the funding of terrorism in the world is Saudi Arabian oil. When we go to the gas pump and we buy gas that the petroleum came from Saudi Arabia, we are funding terrorists who attack us. All right, let the full weight of that sink in on you. We are knowingly funding the terrorists who have and who will attack us, who have attacked us and who will attack us. I've got to take a break. Remember, it's the why and the therefore as we look at this news story. We're going to be talking about New York as well, the primary there for the Democrats and the Republicans. Stay with me. I am going to be 57 years old. April 25th, 1959, the doctor came out and told my dad, it's a boy. And I would like to ask you, if you are enjoying this program, to help us with a $57 gift. Yes, I am stooping that low, where I am actually using my birthday as a fundraising tool. Now, by the way, I'm not going to take the $57. You go to that website that you see there and look for the button on the page that says birthday, okay? And if you want to get one of our books, I'll autograph a book, I'll send it to you, I'd be happy to do it. But this is to basically pay for the show. We do not make money off of this. This is a labor of love to get this word out on over 130 stations around the country, but it takes money. The equipment takes money, paying Bobby Sue and Billy Bob, it takes money. So if you're blessed by this program, I ask you in honor of my birthday to give a $57 contribution to the Voice of Resistance. We're talking about the 28 pages that were redacted from the original 9/11 Commission, whether they will or should be released. Clearly they should be released. What's there that's embarrassing? We don't know. What we do know is that the vast majority of Saudi Arabia's wealth comes from oil. If it had not found and exploited oil, it would be one of the poorest countries in the world. It would still be primarily a Bedouin society with people living in tents and traveling on camels, okay? That's the simple reality. Now, the bin Laden group, okay, the bin Laden family. Osama bin Laden, the founder of Al-Qaeda, allegedly dead now. The government says they killed him. I believe the government. There are people who still think that he's alive. I think he's dead. The bin Laden group has received hundreds of millions, maybe billions of dollars in contracts from the Saudi family. The Saudi family is getting its money from oil. Okay? So when you see pictures of the bin Laden family with the Bush family, there was a member of the, I don't want to say it incorrectly. They called him the other brother, a Saudi Arabian. Oh, his name slips my mind. I ask your forgiveness. I'll look for it during the commercial. He was so close to the Bush family that he was considered like another brother. The money that Saudi Arabia has that has been given to terrorism is directly connected to oil, all right? The government of the United States knows this. Common sense tells you this. So when they say, well, there's 28 pages, what does it show? Does it really matter what it shows? In other words, does the money have to come, a check being written from the Saudi Arabian government or from one of the grandsons or from the bin Laden group? At the end of the day, the money in Saudi Arabia comes from oil. The money that is transferred to terrorists, whether it comes from one of the thousands of grandchildren that are in the House of Saud, the royal family members, or whether it comes from the bin Laden group, who makes its millions and hundreds of millions of dollars also from Saudi oil, or whether it's from some other company or family, individual, it's oil money. And it is used to fund terrorism. And it's also being used right now, for example, in Nigeria, where Saudi money, Saudi oil money is being used to build madrasas, the teaching schools, and mosques. Nigeria is war-torn. Nigeria is in an on and off civil war with the Christians against the Muslims trying to kill the Christians, the Muslims using terrorism. And the Wahhabi, very strict Orthodox Islam that Muhammad practiced, that involves terrorism and sex slaves and kidnapping and hostage taking and cutting off people's heads, all right? That's the Islam that Muhammad started. That is the Islam that is being taught in Nigeria and funded by the Saudis. So it's almost stupid to ask the question, well, how do they self-radicalize? If you forgive me for carrying Jesus Christ and Christianity with Muhammad and Islam, forgive me for doing it, but let me do it just to prove the point. If you were unchurched and you found a copy of the four Gospels and you read them over and over and over, and you thought, this man Jesus, I believe he's the Son of God. I want to live like him. I want to serve people like him. I want to follow his example. What are you going to do? You're going to be like the early apostles. If you found the four Gospels in the book of Acts, you're going to be poor. You're going to serve people. You're going to care for the sick. You're going to read Matthew 25 and say, I've got to feed the poor, the hungry, and clothe the naked. That's what you would do. It's not, oh, he's self-radicalized. He read those Gospels so many times. Look at what he's done. He's become like St. Francis of Assisi. How can this even happen? You can figure it out. You don't have to be a theologian to figure it out. If you look at the texts, the books called the Hadith, Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, they're behind me on the shelves here, okay? If you read them over and over and over, and you believe them, well, like the person who reads the Gospels and tries to become like Jesus and the apostles, the person who reads this material says, oh, God put a sword in Muhammad's hand so that no one but him could be worshipped. God said that Muhammad was given a sword so that he could make his livelihood from a sword. God said to fight the infidel until none is worshipped but Allah. God said that anyone who causes fitna, disorder in the land, should have their heads cut off or their hands cut off or should be crucified. Okay, I know what to do. I've read the Quran, and more importantly, I've read the Hadith. I've read Ibn Ishaq. I've read Al-Tabari. I've read these biographies of Muhammad. Their canonical version, if you will, of the Gospels. And I hate to even say that because it's a bad illustration. But I'm trying to bring it down to the lowest place where we can reason and understand. So if someone reads this body of literature, they come away saying, Allah Akbar, death to the infidels, the sword to the neck of the infidels. We have to kill hypocrite Muslims who help the infidels. It's all right there, people. We have to kill someone who mocks Muhammad. If someone makes a cartoon of Muhammad, they deserve to die. How do I know this? Because I can read it right here in the literature, okay? It's all right here. So when they say, well, they self-radicalize, or we don't understand why they become so radical. We don't know what we did that makes them hate us. Will you stop? Don't listen to these empty-headed, overeducated, but missing the point commentators on Fox and CNN and CNN, CNBC, or any of them. Just forget what they're saying until you hear them quoting the Hadith, the Quran, Al-Tabari, Ibn Ishaq, Ibn Kathir. When you hear them quoting the Gospels of the Islamic faith, then you'll understand. Then you'll know that they know. And then you realize they don't have to be taught to commit acts of terror. All they have to do is have their books funded, their madrasas, their schools funded, and let the children read these stories over and over and over and over again. And they're going to say, I want to be like Muhammad. I want to cut off the heads of the infidels. That's what we're dealing with, people. So that whatever the 28 pages of the Saudi blackout from the 9/11 Commission reveal, it's almost irrelevant, okay? We know the Saudis are the largest funder of terrorism in the world. We know that they're not considered state sponsors of terrorism because we have too many economic interests, our powerful elite do, with their oil money. We know that the Islam that they believe is what Muhammad taught, and they're shipping it around the world. And so, of course, they're directly connected to terrorism. The only issue is whose fingerprints, how high up the Saudi family food chain does the funding and the promotion of terrorism go? i.e., does it embarrass the Bush family because of their long connection with the Saudi family? We'll see. We'll see if they release the report. We'll be back to talk about New York. And is Hillary feeling the burn? She's sweating it. Friend, this program is supported by friends like you who believe in what we are doing. We run a very tight ship. Thankfully, we are on over 130 stations across the country, having tremendous impact. We get emails every day. We get letters in the mail, not every day, but almost every day. We hear from people who love what we're doing. What people don't understand is that it's sort of expensive to produce a television show like this. It doesn't require earth-shattering funds, but it does require financial help. So I am asking you, if you enjoy this program, throw us a $10 or a $20 bill every once in a while, or even a $50 or a $100 check. You see the address there on the screen. Your gifts are not tax deductible, by the way, because we want to be able to say what we want to say regarding politics without the IRS telling us no. So if you like the program, I ask for your support. By the way, the name of that Saudi official is Prince Bandar bin Sultan. You can see pictures of him here. If you are a news follower, you've seen his face many times, meeting with the Bush family, etc. So this 28 pages that is now in the press a lot is in part because President Obama is paying a visit to the Saudi Arabian government, country and family. And listen, forgive me, I've got to go to the therefore really quick. I wanted to move on to New York, and I will, but please hear me. We know, let me do the tight shot so that there's just an intensity. I want you to see the intensity in my face. We know that Saudi oil money is funding the murder of Americans, of Europeans, Belgians, the English, the French. We know this, okay? And yet, we have enslaved ourselves deliberately to Saudi oil. This is a simple math equation. This is follow the dots. So we have massive amounts of oil that is sitting there up in Anwar in Alaska that we could turn off the spigot from Saudi Arabia to us like that. Never mind the Keystone Pipeline. We don't need Saudi oil. This has to do with Aramco, the Arabian American oil company, whatever, I forget exactly what it stands for, but this has to do with business deals between Americans and the House of Saud, the Saudis, involving money, oil money. There are American companies who don't want to exploit the oil in Alaska or in Canada. They have the Keystone Pipeline. Do you understand that there's American companies that don't want to do that? Because they can make bigger profits. When ExxonMobil is involved in selling gas at $3.50 a gallon or $4 a gallon, it doesn't cost them any more money to get the oil out of the ground. These are just exorbitant, obscene, unthinkable profits. And as long as Saudi Arabia and OPEC get to drive the prices up, the American oil companies say, well, that's the price of oil, we're just going along with them. Whereas if we exploited the oil of Alaska and it brought the price down permanently, okay? A permanent under $2 a gallon, $1.60 a gallon. At that point, those wealthy American fat cats are not having as much expendable income to buy their jets or their fancy toys, okay? This is about greed. This is about greed, because if it was about national security, we would have oil coming all the way from Anwar. We'd have the Keystone Pipeline completely functional by now, okay? So that we were not going to Saudi Arabia for our oil. The end. So whoever is the next president, whether it's Trump or Cruz, let's hope that they have the sense to not just put a wall up to keep foreign immigrants on the southern border from coming in illegally. Let's hope that they put a wall up to keep Saudi oil from coming here, so at least we are not funding the terrorists that are killing us. Let them buy their bullets with somebody else's oil money, not ours. I am going to be 57 years old on April 25th. And I am asking you to pray for me, pray for our TV show. And if you have been blessed by this program, I'm asking you to give, if you're able to, a $57 gift. Yes, I'm using my birthday as a shameless fundraising ploy. This program, the studio, the staff, all of the expenses that it takes to put up a good TV show, it costs money, and the money comes from viewers like you, from supporters. So, by the way, if you want to give $570, do it. Randall, what do you want for your birthday? There is a guitar that I would like, but I'm not going to do that. These gifts are not going to go for that. Can they email me? Can they email me and say, I want to buy a guitar for you? All right. Anyway, do $57 if you possibly can to help with this program. I thank you in advance, and I ask you for your prayers that we could keep doing a great show. In about an hour and a half from the end of this program, New York State will close its polls, and the primary, both for the Democrats and the Republicans, will be over. Then we will know how big a margin Donald Trump wins New York by. He's going to slaughter everyone, and we'll see if Ted Cruz gets any delegates. I don't think he's going to hit the 20% threshold. There are 95 delegates at stake in New York. Months ago, when I made my predictions, I said Trump is going to handily win New York, and then on the 29th, he's going to win Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware. Connecticut is coming up shortly. This is where Donald Trump begins to look like he can hit 1237. Tonight is going to be a part of that equation. If Cruz does not hit 20%, it's going to be embarrassment for him. The fact that Kasich is in the race and looks like he's going to get more than 20%, this might actually put him ahead of Rubio, who dropped out a long time ago and is still ahead of John Kasich in delegate count. As for Hillary and Bernie, Hillary has lost to Bernie Sanders 5 out of the last 6 primaries or caucuses. 5 out of the last 6. She has got to win New York just for the public perception part of it. Here's the issue. New York is a proportional state for both the Democrats and the Republicans. So Hillary can win. She'll take most of the delegates. Bernie is still going to walk away with some delegates. I don't think he can win tonight. I really don't. But if he does, the narrative is going to quickly change. But here's the problem. Bernie Sanders has to win 80% of the delegates from New York forward in order to become the Democrat nominee. I just don't see that happening. That is why Bernie Sanders is not touching the email scandal. That's why he's not addressing the fact that Hillary probably committed multiple felonies when she was Secretary of State. Because Sanders knows that he's not going to be the nominee, and he doesn't want to weaken her. That's just the simple reality. If Sanders wanted to become the president of the United States, he has to win the Democratic primary. In order to do that, he would have had to have gone after her on the criminal acts involving her server and her emails. And he signed off on that, so he's not going to deal with it. As I said the other day, I'm going to say it again. I think that as reprehensible as that is on his part, it's a blessing in disguise. Because if Trump or Cruz becomes the nominee, they are going to beat that horse until it drops. Hillary, crooked Hillary, Hillary for prison, not Hillary for president, Hillary for prison, They've left that ticking time bomb, politically speaking, on the table, and they're thanking Bernie Sanders because he hasn't worn it out, and they're going to use it to defeat her.